Well, thank you very much, Ann, and thanks everybody for coming out to listen to the Strategic Metals story. As Ann said, we're a little bit different than some of the previous talks you've seen. Sort of on the other end of the spectrum, you're talking about deposits getting into development. Well, we're sort of the plankton that feeds the system. So as a project generator, we've got a very large portfolio in Yukon, and so here to tell you a little bit about what we do. A couple forward-looking statements. Make sure you read carefully here. So Strategic Metals, we've been working in the Yukon for a long time. We're based out from the Archer Cathro and Associates group. They've been a dominant consulting firm in the Yukon since the 60s. And so we've worked very closely with them to mine their databases and build up a large portfolio of early stage targets. And then we bring in partners to advance them and maintain large share interests or cash payments coming in, royalty interests. So currently we've got about 94 projects in the portfolio that we own 100%, 12 NSRs. Those from time to time can be quite valuable. In one of the past metal cycles, we sold 3 royalties for about 30 million US. So we know the value of royalties in the right market. Currently have a number of projects that are partnered with others. One example I'll show you later is Benjamin Hill Mining. They're drilling on a project that we have that's just out to the south of Western Copper's Casino deposit. They drilled a couple holes in November, waiting on assays. It's a very similar type target to what Casino is now advancing with Rio. Alpha Copper, another one of our partners, similarly advancing a large-scale porphyry target. Our team was involved in the discovery of the Casino deposit, so we understand that these type systems can have huge value. So it's not the type of target that we want to sell 100% interest in, and that's why you see those type of deals on our big porphyry systems, where we try to maintain an interest until our partner comes in and at least defines a little bit of what this deposit could look like before we contemplate selling 100% interest. And so many other deals, we will just receive big share interests for vending projects. And so over the years, we've been able to build up very large share positions in a number of companies. Current shareholdings are valued at around 35 million US or Canadian, sorry. And some of the more advanced projects that we've got big share interest in would be Rockhaven Resources that are progressing a deposit towards pre-feasibility. Broden Mining, they're looking to reactivate the existing deposits in the Faro Mining District. And GGL Resources is one that's made a quite interesting new discovery I'll get to down in Nevada. The company's well funded. We've got a couple million in the bank still, no debt. And we've got, like as I said, a great relationship with Archer Cathro and Associates, one of the longtime consultants in Yukon. So they're able to get a lot of the early stage work done for us on very low cost. And we pride ourselves on approaching First Nations as soon as we stake claims. So a big theme these days is ESG. So part of that is having your local community involved in your project from day one. So as soon as we stake a claim, my first phone call is to the local First Nation. I get in touch with their lands department. I tell them where our claims are staked, what we're looking for, and then we can start that dialogue to see, are we in an area that they're going to oppose exploration? That has happened from time to time, and then we can say, all right, well, we'll go somewhere else and look. But typically, they want to see how that project develops, and they want to be a part of that project as it moves forward. They want to be a part of that exploration so they can see how it's done, that everything's being done responsibly, and then you can start on a lot of the other work that comes along with advancing a mineral project, which include wildlife surveys, baseline water sampling, all that sort of stuff is what really starts at the ground level. And if you can get that going early on, you've got a lot more chance of success with your project as it advances. So I won't spend too much time here, but we're headed up by Doug Eaton. He was one of the principals of Archer Cathro and Associates for many years, from 81 till recently. Now he's got a team headed up by Steve Israel and Heather Burrell are some of the new partners, so common names up in Yukon. Ian Talbot was formerly with BHP, he helps us out with a lot of our agreements. I've got a number of good guys on the board who've had success in the industry, as well as Ryan Shedler, who's heads one of our major shareholders, and he's one of the managing directors of Condar Resource Investment Partners, so one of the big funds that holds about a 17% interest in the company. Over recent years, it's been a little bit tough in the junior market, but as you can see, we've still been able to do deals. So the blue there shows the number of projects we've got under option to other parties, and then in the gold down below is our royalty portfolio. And so as partners earn into 100% interest in projects, we'll always maintain that royalty interest and try to build that portfolio as we move forward. We've got over 12,000 mineral claims in the Yukon, covering all sorts of different commodities. I'll touch on a few of those. And as a project gets to the point where we see that there's defined drill targets on it, we'll sometimes go even through the permitting process and see if we can get 5 to 10 year class 3 drill permits in hand as well, which can often make the projects more saleable to partners that are coming in. So I'm in the Yukon Pavilion. This is sort of a slide that's in the presentation for other talks to just sort of showcase where Yukon is and why we're focused there. The Northern Cordilleran Gold Province, it hosts all the big high-grade gold and copper deposits there in the Golden Triangle down in BC. It extends right through into Yukon, into Alaska, where you've got a lot of very world-class deposits. But Yukon over in the 80s and 90s didn't receive the same kind of exploration as some of those neighboring jurisdictions. So in the last 10 years, we've really seen a flurry of investment come into Yukon, and that's what we've outlined on this slide. Is that the majors are really putting their money to work here. So, we're in the right part of the world. One of the major discoveries that's been making the news recently is by Snowline Gold. So the initial rush of exploration for reduced intrusion type deposits happened back in the 90s with the discovery of Fairbanks, and then later Brewery Creek. There was a wave of exploration came through Yukon looking for these reduced intrusions. They're typically marked by high arsenics in stream sediments, as well as pretty diagnostic magnetic features. And so, there was a wave of exploration in the 90s that came through here. We were involved in some of that. And then again, in the early mid 2000s, when Attack Resources made a Carlin-style discovery, there was another wave of work that came through this belt. So at that time, we were able to move out a lot of our early stage projects to other partners. Those partners came in, did huge soil surveys for us, came into a market downturn, and as part of our model, we were able to get a lot of those projects back. But now we had these targets that weren't just stream set anomalies. We were able to go through the packages that we had under option to others and go through all this extra data that they developed, and then pick out which ones actually look like they're turning into something. Where's this next deposit going to be? And then lo and behold, Snowline was out working on one of their projects. It was staked on the same regional stream sets that we staked our projects on, and they pulled some massive holes into a brand new discovery at Valley, and that really changed everyone's thinking on these reduced intrusion targets, because it had over double the grade of the typical model of these targets. So now all of a sudden there's a new wave of exploration in the belt with companies, ourselves, Snowline, Rackla, Onyx, a couple other groups that are now in looking for more of these Valley type discoveries. You can see our claims that are in the red are still 100% owned. We have vended a number of targets in that belt. They're shown up in blue as royalty interests. And so I'll focus on one of those that is sort of right in the heart of the district, the Mount Hinton project. And now this target is right adjacent to Hecla's Keno Hill mines, and it's historically been looked at as a vein target. So we're in the direct extension of this same stratigraphy that hosts all the mines at Keno Hill. So these are mines that are high-grade silver. They've been mined for over 100 years on various veins in the district, and that same stratigraphy goes onto the Mount Hinton. Now, historically, when the prospectors went up onto Mount Hinton, they found that there wasn't as much galena, which is the main gangue mineral that's hosting a lot of the silver mineralization. So they weren't as interested in a lot of the veins that they found on Hinton, which were more quartz rich, but it turns out that they were also loaded with visible gold. Now, back when a lot of the early work was done at Hinton, in Keno Hill, when United Keno Hill Mines actually owned the Mount Hinton project, the gold-silver ratios were such that it was much more valuable to be looking for silver than gold. Now, obviously, that has changed. And then in addition to that, there was a major placer discovery on the southern portion of our claim block in 2016. Now, this was a discovery that was made below 10 meters of glacial till. So previously, that southern portion of the ground, there was no known placer operations there, and now it's one of the most exciting placer plays in all of Yukon. So you can see some of the gold they're pulling out of there. Obviously, that gold's coming from the Mount Hinton. Every single drainage that drains our Mount Hinton claim block has active placer operations on it. And as I said, some of the most productive now. And our thinking is that, hey, if it's the same mineralizing system that's causing all these veins at Hinton or at Keno that's causing it at Hinton, but ours is more gold rich versus the silver rich at Hinton, we must be in a hotter part of the system. That sort of fits again with that reduced intrusion model that's now developing within the district, we're in the same part of the world as Victoria Gold's recently commissioned Eagle Mine. They're working their way up towards the 200,000 ounces per a year of production. That's, again, a reduced intrusion play. So our current thinking is that there could be a buried intrusion on the Mount Hinton project that is causing all these gold veins and then further out the silver veins in the district. So as I showed you a whole bunch of other targets that are further afield in this belt. One of the more advanced that we have is the Lance. Here you can see gold plotted on the left and arsenic plotted on the right. Arsenic's a key indicator mineral for this type of system again. So where you've got these high arsenic signatures that are coincident with magnetic lows, they're quite prospective for seeing this sheeted mineralization that they found out at the Valley discovery. So we sent crews in there last year to follow up on some of this geochem, found some sheeted veining in some of those areas that's pictured on the right. So we're quite encouraged by some of this early work and looking forward to getting back out and possibly getting a drill hole into there soon. So aside from gold, which, obviously the Yukon's famous for gold, it's also has a wide selection of metals. So here's a couple of the targets that we've been collecting over the years. Strategic's motto is that we're omnivores. We'll go after any target regardless of the commodity, as long as it looks like it's a project that could be economic when its cycle comes. And one of the special things about Yukon is you can maintain your claims by performing work. So you don't have to pay rent to the government every year. You can go out there and slowly and methodically advance your targets. And in that way, you're able to maintain a much larger portfolio. So we've got projects that cover tin, tungsten, vanadium. Some of these are drill confirmed. The Van project, for example, it's got some nice drill holes, 50-meter thickness in the large sedimentary package with some good grade vanadium. We've got a very high-grade copper cobalt target down in southern Yukon that's progressing quite well, and then a number of tungsten targets as well. So a lot of these sort of more obscure metals have become quite topical in recent years, and there's a lot more funding now becoming available for it. But these are just the type of projects that have sort of been hiding in our portfolio for quite some time. So it's nice to see some of the more attention come to the critical metals space. And now that critical metals term's getting thrown around a lot on some of the more base metals such as copper and zinc with all the electrification that's going on. So one of the things that we always do, we're watching the claim positions in Yukon. We're keeping an eye on what discoveries get made, and oftentimes as the cycles progress, ground comes available. So this deposit here, the Craig deposit, actually was held by Xstrata for a number of years. It came available a couple years back, and Strategic was able to acquire it by staking. We already owned the entire belt to the east and west of this Craig deposit. So we've got a 14-kilometer long belt that's prospective for carbonate replacement style high-grade zinc silver. And now we've got an open-ended deposit that's sort of right at the center of that belt. So as you can see, some of those drill intersects, pretty impressive. 17 meters at 25% combined lead zinc with over 200 grams silver. So quite a prospective zone. And again, looking to advance this district with a partner. Onto the copper side, big theme in the electrification. Yukon, again, is the extension of the BC porphyry belt. And so where you've got a lot of large copper mines operating down in British Columbia, that same stratigraphy extends up into Yukon. And we've been involved in a lot of that early stage work. As I mentioned earlier, our team was behind the discovery of the Casino deposit. So we've spent a lot of time working further south in that belt. As you can see, Casino's up here. We've got the Alada just to the south. That one's under option to a partner. A little further, we've got the CD project. Similar age Pluton driving mineralization there. And then as we come down to the Hopper, again, another target. This one's road accessible. Same age Pluton as Casino. It's got a large skarn system that's been the focus of most of the historic drilling, but there's also a porphyry target there that we're awaiting good drill testing on. So our model now is, we've got a couple of these under optioned others. We're permitting some of our other targets with the idea that we'll be bringing in new partners to drill test those in the years to come. The Alada project, one that you should keep your eyes open for the news to come on this. This partner was out there in November actually drilling holes, so they pushed their season nice and late to get a couple holes into this target. Very large scale geochem anomaly. This has got a 4-kilometer strike length on it, so you could drop the Casino deposit into here 3 or 4 times across this. And so they reported sulfides from their first initial drill holes, but they're awaiting assays. So, very, very exciting target for us there. And again, we've got a maintained 40% interest after they earn in, and they've got to spend $11 million in exploration and pay us about $500,000 to get to that 60%. So the Faro mines in Yukon, when they were in operation, were one of the biggest drivers to Yukon's GDP. In this figure, the Faro mine itself is in the blue area, but there was a number of other deposits discovered along strike of that, being the Grum, the Van Gorda, Grizzly, and Swim. They show up in the red and the purple there. And so what we've done is put a new company together called Broden Mining. It's a partnership between a group of companies, including Strategic Metals, one of our spin codes, Silver Range Resources, and the local Ross River First Nation. And the idea here is to reacquire the deposits that are currently held by the federal government and get them back into production. So this is a brownfield site. There's a huge amount of resources sitting there that are already defined. There was a mine plan. Actually, the Grum pit had a 10-year mine life, and they'd started mining it. They mined it for about 18 months before stopping. So there's a huge amount of ore that is waiting there to basically be developed with modern mining techniques. And so we're working through the process with various levels of government to get acquisition of all this. And as part of the land package, the giant green area to the north was the formation of one of our previous spin-out companies, Silver Range Resources, which after exploring there for a couple of years to find a 30 million ounce silver resource. So that's been vended into the package as well for their 10% share interest. So looking forward to some news coming out of that, hopefully within the next year or so. It's kind of up in the air, but anyways, here's one of our other major shareholdings. It's a little bit outside of the industry, but we actually came up with this idea while flying over the Faro mine site to go and work on that Silver Range project. So every day we're flying back and forth, and we see this old tailings facility and there's ongoing remediation, and we're thinking to ourselves, how could we clean this up? If we're going to get a mine going in here, we're going to need power, and you're going to need to deal with the historical legacy environmental issues. And so, being a group of scientists, we started thinking, power is going to require some sort of, we're likely an LNG plant. I mean, we're boosting the grid with diesel power right now in Yukon. So, there's probably going to be hydrocarbons involved. So what if we could capture that and use it to help remediate the mine tailings? Well, it turns out that you could actually react the CO2 off gases with sulfides and create siderite, which is a stable carbonate mineral. And then you'd reduce or eliminate the acid rock drainage potential. So, as our scientists are working through this technology, it actually works. Turns out the economics weren't quite as favorable as we'd hoped, but as they were investigating that, they came up with a new way to do dry stack tailings. And then when they presented that to us, we're sort of scratching our heads, and it's like, well, this isn't really just a dry stack. This is a new cement. And so it turned out that they discovered a new way to make cement out of aluminum silicate minerals. So now you've got, porphyry, copper deposits all over the world that have these tailings ponds that are just full of this already ground up rock that can now be feedstock for this new cement technology. And so we've been advancing this for a number of years. The largest shareholder in it now is Bill Gates' company, Breakthrough Energy. One of their sort of criteria for investments is that your technology has to be able to have a material impact on global CO2 emissions. And so with Terra's product, you can reduce 70% of the CO2 emissions from a pound of cement. And so cement production is anywhere from 5 to 7% of global CO2 emissions. So that makes this technology could be one of the more game-changing technologies in the CO2 space. So they've raised well north of 60 million US now advancing this project. They recently did a test pour of one of their product lines at a Porsche facility. And then following that, they announced a couple commercial scale deals with Asher Materials, and they announced the one actually subsequent to this slide, where they're going to have commercial scale facilities now in construction later this year. So after lots of science going into this to move it forward, but we've got a lot of the biggest backers in the world pushing this forward, and I think it could be a game-changing technology for the concrete industry. But one of the other big investors in here, alongside Strategic, is Rio Tinto, and they came in because they saw the the potential for tailings remediation, because now you've got all this rock that's already been ground up. You don't have to mine limestone. You don't have to crush it to cook it to create cement. You've already got all this tailings that was a waste product, and now you can use that as feedstock for these other industrial processes. So it's a pretty nice win-win technology. So we're looking forward to seeing that move forward. One of the projects we've been backing for quite some time now, the Rockhaven Resources Claza deposit. This is one of the highest grade gold deposits ever found in the history of Yukon. We're over 1 million ounces of gold. We're currently working on an updated resource that's going to convert a lot more of our inferred ounces into indicated, and then they'll be launching into a pre-feasibility study. It's a road accessible project. They've got a partnership with the local First Nation. We're surrounded by placer operations, so we don't have to permit any new road access. It's a brownfield site right adjacent to Mount Nansen, and it's wildly economic at much lower gold prices than we're at now. There was a PEA done back in 2020 that showed at 1740 gold it had north of $500 million NPV, and now we're at much higher gold prices than that, and we've definitely increased the size and confidence in that resource since then. So we're looking forward to the next round of economics to come out on that. And beside Strategic being a big supporter here, insiders are also large shareholders of Rockhaven. Here's the investment thesis. We've got the well-known Lassonde curve, which is a well-known curve in the mineral exploration space in terms of the value creation through the life cycle of discovery through development. So for the past number of years, we've already made the discovery. There's a lot of resource definition, drilling, infill, metallurgy, all sorts of boring stuff that investors don't care about so much. So the stock's been drifting sideways. But we're reaching that inflection point where once we have a pre-feasibility in hand, we can start the permitting process. And then those NPV numbers in the economics start to become real when you can put a real timeline on it. So looking forward to their updated resource should be out within a month or so, and then on towards a pre-feasibility. GGL Resources, another one where we've got a very major stake in it. This is a company we took over for its diamond assets in the Northwest Territories. So it holds actually a number of royalties on some diamond assets up there, but the focus has been on discovering new copper deposits. And this target came to us actually from, one of our sister companies was working down in Nevada with one of the ex-mining inspectors who had, this ex-mining inspector had just acquired these old mines at Gold Point, or a couple mines at Gold Point. And so we were working with him on some other projects and realized the significance of these historic mines, because when they were in mining in the 60s, they had a 10 gram per ton cutoff grade for gold. They'd mined some of these veins down 1,000 feet. They were still fully oxidized. There's a little ways north of Beatty where Corvus Gold recently got taken out. They've said, working in this part of the world, you can have oxidation down a couple thousand feet in some places. So we started consolidating the district. We were able to get 4 mines now that we own 100%. They're all stacked up laterally, only about a couple hundred meters away from each other. So I was out touring the property with Newmont's former chief geologist, Dick Reed, and we're walking along strike of some of these veins, and he says, these are obviously all related, but they're coming from somewhere. These high-grade epithermal gold-silver systems are usually related to some sort of heat pump in the district. So, that's the Newmont-sized target. And he starts waving out to the west, saying, somewhere over there, based on the metal zonation we see, the heat pump's over there. So over the last couple of years, we've been conducting broad-scale geochemical surveys and started picking up a bit of a mag signature in the southern part of that claim block. We expanded our claims to the south. Lo and behold, a very large donut-shaped mag feature. Now we've got much more much broader soil coverage, got a big copper and moly soil anomaly over top of there. So we just had a crew down last month doing a bunch of alteration mapping on this. The next step is an IP survey, and then you're off to drilling. And so there's, down in the US, there's been a company that had a very similar story to this, been making a lot of news lately, called Hercules Silver, that similarly had a historic high-grade gold or a high-grade silver system that was known. And it was theorized that, again, there was a big copper porphyry system that was feeding this. And so they came in, did some work and drilled down below, and lo and behold, we're able to find that system. VRIC came in as a major investor right away. So we're looking to do something similar out here at Gold Point, out at the Le Champ porphyry target that's out in the western end. So went over all sorts of different things in strategic here. We're a bit of a sum of the parts story. And so I'll just walk you through a bit of that because given how the market's been lately, it's quite a compelling valuation. So we've got $2 million in cash, roughly a similar position in GGL Resources. Our Rockhaven Resources closer to about a $5 million valuation. Add that on, Broden gets us up closer to 20. You add our position in Terra CO2, that's based on their last financing, which was done at over $1 or about $1 US. So we got 15 million shares there. So that's 15 million US. Other shareholdings bump us up a bit. We've got current holdings of our property portfolio that are 100% held by Strategic, are valued at around $30 million. And then we've got our assessment credits, which is another sort of off-balance sheet item. But if you were a project generator working in another jurisdiction, you've got to make those rent payments every year. So basically, these accrued assessment credits are almost like forward paid rent for our claim position. So we're able to hold all of our claims for a number of years without any further expenditures. And so I total all that up, sitting at around 74 million or 70 cents a share versus the current market cap is about 20 million. So there's your opportunity given where the market is. And this has happened to the company before. Actually, when I started with this company was back in 2009. So coming out of the 2008 crash, the same sort of thing happened. We're trading below our net asset value, and then within 2 years, the money printing started, the price of gold ran, and our market cap went from 20 million to over 300 million in a couple of years. So that's sort of the leverage that comes with project generators, but they're typically not recognized until later in the cycle. So upcoming catalysts, Rockhaven, as I mentioned a couple times, they've got a pre-feasibility study that'll be published later this year. Broden Mining is expecting to get the land transfers completed, and then they've got a PEA in the can that's just waiting on those final signatures to get the land title, and then they'll be able to publish a PEA and do an IPO. Terra CO2 Technologies, they're progressing towards commercialization. Their initial plant, they've got a deal with Asher Minerals where they're not going to have to put up a lot of cash in order to develop that first one. So it's getting those industry partners in place is very important for them. And then Benjamin Hill Mining, more conventional on the exploration front. Just assays pending on what could be a large copper gold porphyry system in Yukon. And then GGL Resources looking for a new porphyry discovery in Nevada, working in the Walker Lane. Thank you very much.